So I'm going to bring on Lee because if I keep talking about it, I will just get all teary-eyed and choked up. So let me dab my eyes a minute, because the part about the Christmas meal is just another piece that just gets me, because like something so simple meant so much. And that's what I think we need to not lose sight of. It doesn't take much to just know that somebody is there. And that's why I'm here. Doesn't take much. This is what I can do. All right, let's bring Lee in and hear from Lee. We'll get him set up.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you, Lee?
I am good, Elena. Good to be with you.
Thank you. We are rocking and rolling. We are, I think, in hour, what are we in 22? Hour 22, about 8 a.m. Yes,
All right, home stretch.
So tell us, I want to give you all your time to just talk about all the amazing things that you're doing. Like, let everybody know this morning just who you are and how you are serving back, and what that journey has been like for you.
Oh, wow. I don't know if we can cover that in an hour. No, but I'd like to start just by saying I am originally from Ohio. So anyone who knows the town Oberlin, Ohio, I'm privileged to have been born and grown up there, because that gave me a foundation of I don't want to just say service, but seeing what thinking about others looks like, right? The Oberlin was very important back in times of slavery, when they were helping enslaved people escape to the north, the Underground Railroad. So I've seen a lot of forward thinking from community, so that helped a foundation all the way to now.
Yeah.
But I would say that, I really started stepping into this true purpose of service, probably midlife, around age 41, 42, when I realized, and I'm not that age now, but realizing that I've been through enough life experiences to give back to the community, to help anyone get through roadblocks, especially young Black men, navigate difficulties in life. So, tried many things, tried to get a group of guys together. And at the time did not realize I was not quite ready to lead. Okay. Which is important, because if you are bringing people together for a purpose, you can't just say something like, hey man, I have this idea. Are you in?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, well, yeah, but what's the idea? And that's what I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that led to and this is a true story, led to a Google search of what does it take to be a life coach. Okay. That's literally how my journey started in 2019. Excuse me. So one of my first school called me back, and because they had a person call me back, it wasn't just an email, it wasn't just a automated response that made a difference to me. So started with that school, and I haven't looked back since.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you say that you Googled that, because I have talked about that before, like when people are struggling to figure out like exactly who they want to help or how they, and I'm like, envision them at night struggling, like what are they Googling to find a solution, right? So that's
right. Or back in the days before there was Google, what are you watching on TV? What are you flipping through? what are you searching for? Absolutely. But I do want to finish talking about the coaching journey, because I want to talk about how it's gotten me over the last 3 years or so. But before that, there's something that we have in common that I didn't really realize um, until I was looking at one of your older posts or something like that, and it's a phrase, "Do it afraid." So I was like, that's amazing, because that's exactly what you kind of have to do, and it can mean something different to everybody. I literally was just, and I know that we originally met in person in New Jersey,
Yes.
and by the way, I think you were amazing. I think you should have
Well,
won it
thank
all.
you.
That
Thank
that
you.
that was my thought. Um, but I was at a speaking competition. I was a participant in Philadelphia this past weekend, and the core message that I was talking about was how I learned to do it afraid. You know, now we both have experienced personal loss and death of loved ones, but I learned to do it afraid also from a different way, from the sport of triathlon, and it was really about jumping in and doing it afraid. Like, the fear might never go away, might never go away, but over your lifetime, or in your time of training, you have exactly enough to do it afraid. Excuse me. And then when you do it afraid, by the time you finish that thing, whatever it is, you will have gained so much more than having let the fear stop you, of whatever that is. So I didn't even that didn't even occur to me that we both use that phrase and kind of live by that a lot, but it's
Yes.
it's important for people to, because a lot of times what happens, well, if I do this, then I'll be more prepared. If I read more, if I train more, if I wait till I have enough money for the fear to go away, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it might always be there. It might always be there. So do it afraid. That is a great core message. So excuse me, moving back on to um when I started training for being a coach, health and life coach. Um so yeah, I got certified in 2020 after I finished my initial training. And if I told you that I knew I would be here at this point, I'd been like, no, you're crazy. I have no idea. Um, so I started off coaching and learning how to coach, realizing that I've kind of had this my whole life, right? When people come to you, and it's not just about advice, right? You don't tell people what to do, but being able to offer insights, that kind of thing. So I really learned my style of coaching. I learned how to coach on different things, whether it's communication, whether it's um, personal development, just understanding people, feeling heard, right? Learned how to do that. And then that evolved into, well, wait a minute, who really needs my help, or who can I serve the best? And that's when it really dawned on me that, yeah, my passion is really coaching men and young Black men, because if and this has really been over the last 6 months now.
Okay.
If I and we can help men heal and help men explore their entire being, right? Like, men are not just providers. Men are not just, you know, certain aspects of what they think they are. Men are whole beings as well. And it's been a difficult, or a challenge, for our society to let men explore the entire of their being, you know,
Yeah.
be strong, don't cry,
Keep it all in, not just
yeah.
all in.
And so that's really important to me, because I think that then trickles down for everyone else, and I don't mean to say that it should be a patriarchal society. That's not what I'm intending. But just the different constructs of how we have let men, not be whole. So, and it's okay, like, you do it behind closed doors, so I won't let anyone see, won't let anyone know. One of the strongest things you can do is share your vulnerability and share, your emotions,
Yes. And at what point, like, it shouldn't be made to feel like it has to be behind closed doors.
Exactly.
When you say the whole being, we are all human beings. We all feel the emotion. We all have the things. And so what you're doing is so, so needed. Such a priority, like amazing. Can I ask, did you have that solid role model, that leader in your life? Or is this giving back because you had to kind of figure it out on your own?
That's a great question. Great question. I think it's a mixture of both.
Okay.
So, I want to say that, this might be a stereotype, but a lot of times, in the Black families, that a lot of times guys grow up without dads, right? So I was lucky enough and blessed enough to grow up in a 2-parent household. But my dad he identified himself as a provider. Okay. So there's one aspect. He did not show his emotions. He did not do certain things. So while my father was there, he also wasn't there. So yeah, and I grew up in a bit of a dysfunctional house. Can I share freely here? Can I?
Yes, I hope you do. Yes.
Good. So, and again, I'm not speaking ill of my father or anything like that, because he passed away in 2016. But here's the point about helping men heal. My father was a functional alcoholic. So that's how he dealt with these pressures, right? Of, husband, father. He had a high stress job, and along with, okay, now I'm going to buy things, right? And all these material things, to make me feel better, right? That's how he did those things. So while I saw that, and I saw the dysfunction, of his relationship with my mom, right? Their marriage. They were married for 45 years. So again, nothing's perfect, but I saw those things. So, your question, that yes, my dad was there, and yes, I did learn certain positive things from him too, right? On how to be there for family members, because that's one thing that he always did. Cousins, he was from a family of 8, so always visiting his brothers and sisters, that kind of thing. I definitely learned that, and how to keep things in the house running. So yes, I definitely learned those things from him too.
Yes.
But I would say also growing up, and this is nothing but divine intervention, reflecting on it now, there were certain men put in my life at certain times of my upbringing that I then drew different characteristics from, from or certain men that I was involved with. I was like, oh, don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
you kind of took bits and pieces from just different people in your life to form what you put together in yourself, basically.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I do want, and I want to share this story, and I've told one of my best friends, I've told his father this, and it's funny that, we're talking about 25, 30 years now. He didn't recall this at the time, but he saved my life, and I'll tell you why, or I'll tell you how. So in 1995, I had, and I'm also probably one of those rare guys who has a strong group of friends from high school. So, 6, 7, 8 of us, strong group still. But unfortunately, like in 1995, we lost one of our friends. Okay. And when you're 19, 20 years old, you think you're invincible, right? You run through a brick wall and you're like, no, it's not going to hurt. There's nothing that's going to,
Yeah.
I'm in the prime, right? That's how you feel. So being forced to look at your own mortality at that age it was devastating for me. So I was on a path of destruction, right? I was dismissed from college because of the depression. Again, not knowing how to deal with this kind of thing, right?
Did you lean towards the alcohol because that's what you saw your dad do at all? Was that ever a factor?
Oh, the alcohol was definitely a factor.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I leaned towards it because it's what I saw my dad do, but I'm sure that had something to play with it.
Okay.
But yes, lean towards alcohol, drugs.
Okay.
And thankfully, and I say this all the time too, I am so thankful that I did not injure anyone else,
Yeah.
because there were plenty of times that I should not have been driving.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm thankful that, his hand was
Yes.
on me during those times,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
So yeah, on a huge downward self-destruction path. Okay. And my mom and I had talked about this many times too. For her to have to witness it and not be able to do anything about it, that was hard for her.
Mhm.
Anyhow, so one particular day, Dad took me to lunch. I think my mom had actually called him. Now I think about it, but he took me to lunch and he was talking about our group of friends and how we were all affected by, our friend's death in different ways. And now I don't have any tattoos or anything, but if I was to ever get one, this is what it would have been.
Mhm.
So he started explaining to me the um, Chinese word for crisis. And this is a loose translation, but I've looked it up.
Mhm.
But it's made up of two characters. The first character stands for the word danger, and the second word stands for for opportunity. Second character is for opportunity. So crisis is made up of dangers and opportunities.
Wow.
And so what he was explaining to me was with our friend's death, we were all in crisis, which is very true.
Mhm.
Now, again, and we were all in our own different crisis, but came from that. And so we could use it. It was a very dangerous time because clearly I was one that was on this self-destruction path. Or we could use his memory and his legacy, and use it as an opportunity. And it doesn't mean so. After that, we finished lunch, and went on about our way.
Mhm.
But I still remember that conversation to this day, right? I mean, clearly, I'm sitting here telling you about it. Um, but that really did save my life because I started looking at things as an opportunity. And when you think about that, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean that the road's going to be smooth. But when you reframe it, and see, that's how you get to use the coach part now, right? But when you reframe what you're thinking and how your actions are, use it as an opportunity to honor, those who have passed. That way it might not be quite in alignment with what you need to do, but it won't be destructive. And then by you sharing and doing actions that are always looking at opportunities, it allows someone else who's going through something similar to see, oh, wow, okay, there is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel, that maybe if I change just one thing, maybe I can do that too.
Yes. And that is what we're here for, to inspire that hope and inspiration, because listening to you, there's so many some similarities. Just the one in the fact my father was an alcoholic.
Mhm.
And that does do something. And he would disappear for a couple days at a time, but come home with gifts. So that's what to make up for it. So you
Sure.
do bring these things in with you as you age. So I love what you're doing and how you're serving. So yeah, just keep going. I'm like listening to it.
Well, it's so true, and you're right. Like again, my self-destruction path back then, I'm sure, and because it wasn't just from my dad, right? We all can point to family members who have addictions and those kind of things. So yes, not just my dad, but I'd seen it throughout my family.
Mhm.
At the time when I went to school, I wasn't the first, right? Like a lot of times there's a lot of firsts who go to college, that kind of thing. But I was one of the first to have actually graduated, So, and again, I was academically dismissed during this time period, but that's another thing about doing it afraid, right?
Yes.
So, and I'll share that story. I think we have time.
Yes, we sure do. Mhm.
Good. So that another way of doing it afraid, right? Again, you wouldn't think that unless I told you right now that I had gotten dismissed academically from college. Okay, it happens. But the thought process, I thought that I'm never going to go to school again. Then I thought, the friends that I created in college, still have some lifelong friends from college as well, that okay, they hate me because I'd left them. Okay, worst place to be is in your head, right?
Yeah.
So one of my angels on earth, I was working at a warehouse, and learned and had been there for about a year and a half, was probably one of the best people at the job that I was doing, and was overlooked, and it had racist tones to it. So the boss that I was working for, she was like, "Why are you here? Why are you working here?" I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, "You're too smart. You're too young. Why are you here? You need to go back to school." And I was like, "Okay, got it." So, yeah, worked my way back to started going back to college part-time. And then I could prove to myself that, okay, I can do this. But I had to face those demons and went back to the school that I was dismissed from. And I had called an old professor who was now then the director of the department and all this. And again, right, what's the worst place to be is in your head, because you think, no one likes you, like you let everybody down. When I made that phone call, he was like, "Lee, it's great to hear you."
Wow. Wow.
Like what? You remember me. Second, okay. So then they made a way, got back into college, right? So faced those demons and had to even go through depression while going back, right? Because now I'm dealing with the emotions of having lost my friend, and then dealing with, okay, I've gotten through the initial self-destruction, but now I'm back and I got to do this by myself. And, yeah, definitely went through counseling and stuff like that too.
Yeah. And I love that you can say that, because that is another thing. Like, oh, we don't do counseling, or I mean, that they're like,
yeah,
say
don't talk about
it. Yes. And so I love where you're coming from. I love what you're saying. I love what you're doing. So I just want to say that I honor that in you. So
thank you. Yeah, well, that's the thing. How can I serve and help men if I don't sit there and say, I went through this? Now, again, everyone's experience is different, so I don't necessarily know specifically what everyone goes through, but I can tell you, and even about counseling, right? You know how many I went through? About 5.
Yeah.
Because you know, when you're first trying to get help, if the person doesn't quite, it's nothing personal,
Right.
but if you're not receiving the help you need, keep finding it until you get to that person who clicks with you, you know?
Yes. Mhm.
And so that's what I had to do. I didn't stop, and finally it got to a counselor where we could connect, you know.
Good. Mhm.
But yeah, you're so right. Like in our communities, ooh, no, don't talk about that. No, no, nothing's wrong with me. Yet you're over there at the bar every Friday, spending your paycheck. The counseling is not in the alcohol or the drugs, because
But that's
then what happens?
acceptable, right? But that's like, that's okay, right?
And it's worse after that, right? Because now you feel physically worse and you're broke.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
what did that really solve? And again, I'm not
Yeah.
judging anyone for it at all, right?
Right.
Been there, done that. But what does it solve? It doesn't, it just makes it worse.
Yes.
Anyhow, I'll get off that soapbox, but I've been there. It's
Yeah.
crazy, you know?
Well, and I've been there
So,
too. I mean, that's the thing. Like when you talk about the destruction and the pain that you bring in, I was 13
Mm.
when I started drinking. My dad had shared a story. He was 9. Like he
Mm.
uncles, and it was like the thing to do, right? And so
Mhm.
my 13th birthday, and I'm full transparency too, because we're here to talk about the hard stuff. My 13th birthday, I drank to the point, because it was the first time I drank to the point I'm getting sick in a strawberry shortcake trash can. Like, happy birthday to
Oh,
me, right? So we all have
yeah,
the
yeah.
things, and it's like, we're not perfect, so we've got to talk about these things. So yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, because the more you share it, the more people will hear their story inside of it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And then they'll be like, "Oh, nothing's wrong with me. I just don't have the tools yet." So how did Elena do it? How did Lee do it? Right?
Mhm.
Because I just don't have the support or the tools. Hey,
Mhm.
you know, can I fast forward real quick? I want to
Yes.
share something
Yes.
really, really important that happened to me the other day. Um, I think this was on Monday, and um, most everybody's aware, like when you're in an urban area and you're going in and out of stores or walking around the city, there are homeless people, and a lot of times they're hanging around fast food joints or whatever, and you walk in, hey, you know, can you spare some change, right? So this particular day, I was walking into a store, get some medication for my daughter. Walk in, guy sitting outside, and he was like, you know, can you spare something? And I was like, well, you know what? I'll see what I could do when I come out.
Mhm.
Mind you, I full well know that I have a $20 bill in my pocket. Okay. Full well know that. Go in, get the medication on my way out. And he sees me again. He's like, hey, you know, and I was like, yeah, man, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't have anything for you today. I take about 2 or 3 steps, and something calls me back, and I'm like, I need to go talk to this guy. Okay. So I go back to him, and like he's sitting down on the ground, and I'm standing kind of in front of him. And I was like, man, you do you mind if I ask you some questions? Do you mind if I talk to you? He's like, yeah, no, 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 come on, you can talk to me. So I asked him, I was like, you know, what got you here, right? What got you homeless? And you know, he takes a minute, he's like, you know what? Drugs. He was like, I've been using since I was 15. And he was like, but unfortunately, he's like, both my parents are users. And that's how I got introduced to it at 15.
Wow.
He's now 38. So he's been using the better part of his life, you
Wow.
know? So I continued to talk to him and just was like, look, man, you know, well, what is it that I can do? Right? How can I help you other than like giving you money? What can I do? And at first he's like, look, man, I'm just hungry. Like, I'm not one of these other folks who, as soon as you give him money, you're going to see him go get their next fix or something. Which, and just the fact that he's talking to me and allowed me to talk to him, I can feel that. in his heart, and I can see it in his eyes, right? So I was like, okay, well, other than that, like how, because I feel that you don't want to be in this position, right? Like you don't want to be on Molly right now. You don't want to be on drugs. And then I asked him, can I sit down and talk to you? So I sat down next to him, started talking to him, found out, his name. But I won't say it now, but found out he like shared his name with me, and we could continue to talk. And then he started saying like, man, he'd lost his apartment. He had an apartment, had a job, but the addiction, right? Like that's what gets to you. And so he even started talking about like his own life, where he's like, man, I tried to wash up the other day, but then I had to put the same clothes back on. And you could, like, my heart was breaking talking to this guy, because he didn't choose this,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have that support, right? Like someone who believes that he doesn't want to be there. Okay. So again, we talked a little bit more, and I told him, I said, look, because we looked about the same size. So I said, I was going to give you some of my old clothes. I said, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and buy you some new clothes. I'm buy you some fresh clothes. I said, I'm going to come back on Wednesday, and, we'll talk some more then, but I'll bring the stuff then. And he started talking about a program for treatment that he's in and wants to be in. That's supposed to start in another week or so. So I'm not sure. Now I did go back, and we didn't connect because he wasn't there at the places that he said he was going to be. But I share that story, and I will keep you updated if I connect with him again, because I have a backpack of clothes waiting to give him, by the way. But I share that because and this is how I really do feel, right? It's great being a coach. There's nothing else like it, and now with technology and, being able to have a podcast and all this stuff, like your message can get out to thousands and millions, and that is amazing and a great purpose. But if I can't acknowledge and accept and meet my fellow human right there, right? The one, what good is it for me to reach 1 million or 1,000, whatever, right? The other number, this human was right in front of me. Now, again, I know we all have go through that, and I don't do it all the time, right? But something told me to go back and talk to this guy. And if I can't acknowledge his humanity first, that's where it starts, And it wasn't like, hey man, who do you want to come on my show and talk about this?
Right.
It wasn't about any of that. I needed to meet him where he was right then and there, and
he just needed to be heard. And seen. He needed to be seen and heard right in that moment. And you picked through discernment.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was I wanted that just happened literally like this week,
Wow.
But I don't take that lightly, because that's the calling, that's the service, that's what I'm supposed to do, and while we're sitting there, right, we're sitting against the building and we're talking, I noticed the people walking past us, walking around us, didn't care, because it wasn't about me, it wasn't about them, it was about him at that moment,
Wow.
Yeah.
So share with us, what are your goals or plans in working with these men, or what does that look like? How has that begun, or is it still in concept form? Like,
it's not quite in concept form. So one of the things that I've been able to do this year is launch an online course for men. The concept part is actually expanding that, where there's going to be like a course for women and there's a course for parents. But so the online course for men is based off of, there's a national initiative called Fathering in 15.
Okay.
This was created, I want to say back in 2012. Not quite sure about the date, but it's an amazing curriculum. And it really was a curriculum for men to become better fathers.
Okay. Okay.
And so a friend of mine who was in the Department of Allegheny Health at the time was like, hey, have you seen this curriculum? Why don't you look at that? And so what occurred to me really from that curriculum was, well, wait a minute. In order for men to be better fathers, don't you have to be a better man first? That's just kind of a logical progression.
Right.
So I adapted the curriculum to really just being a better man. Right. Okay. And so that's the base that I used for the course. Now, the difference is what I started thinking about too was, again, you're in the same space where it's about coaching and this, and everybody, oh yeah, you got to have this high ticket fee, and yeah, it costs this, and this. I'm like, how can I get to the people who can't necessarily afford that? Because I'd love to do all this for free, but I got to eat too. I got to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But how can I do that? And so I came up with a very low price point. If there's a guy out there who is, has 2 jobs, but if he can manage to pay $60 a month for 5 months, he can take this course. And the difference is, it's not just the curriculum and you go through it by yourself. I use the 15 comes from, there's 15 lessons, if you will. So I spread it out, doing 3 lessons a month. And then at the end of the month, there's a live coaching call with me, with whoever's in the course. So not only do they get the curriculum, and then inside of the curriculum, I have pre-recorded videos on each topic. And then I get to reinforce it with live coaching. Nice. Like, that's like the perfect platform to me, right? Because I've been through enough programs where, it's all online, you do it all yourself, take quizzes, right? But what if you have questions, or
you want that connection?
That live component. And then it also builds community with the people who are in it, right? Because all of their experiences are different. So if they also come to the live call, and I've experienced this in my own training, you may not be in a one-to-one conversation in the group call, but again, you might hear something for you from within that. Yeah. So that's where it started.
Very nice. So I'm going to be collecting like the information from everyone that was featured and like housing this on the website. So if people want to connect and reach you, we'll put a link. Where are we at? Yeah, I'm gonna bring in, but this was absolutely amazing. And I wish we had like more time to really dig into this, because I want to be able to support this work. I'm the mother of 2 sons, and it's a much needed, I've done the best I can, but I am not a man. And I'm sorry, like, I do believe there are differences.
Yes. I agree with you 100%. Right? There is a way. I've been someone's son too. So there are ways that mothers nurture their children, and there are ways that fathers nurture their children, and it's complementary. It's complementary.
Yes. So I definitely want to bring you back, or we do another discussion. But thank you.
Absolutely.
Spending time with me this morning.
No, thank you. It's
Circle of Hope. I love it. Yeah.
My pleasure. Can I share one last thing before we go?
Yes.
When I was in Philadelphia for this speaker competition, and had to leave early, not the point. One of the gifts that the host gave us, we had to reach into a bag of rocks that had a word or saying on it. I should have brought it with me. The rock that I pulled had the word hope on it. Now, I didn't have that before I signed up for your Streamathon.
Wow. Yeah. HOPE, help one person every day. Yes.
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for sharing. It was beautiful to see you this morning.
Yes, yes. Thank you
Yes,
so much.
we'll
Elena.
definitely be connecting. Okay.
I
So,
love it. Absolutely. We
right,
know where to
thanks.
find each other. Yes.
Yes. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.